Hi guys, welcome to this interview today. I am very pleased to have someone very special, someone very inspirational today. Mark, who are you? Where did we first meet?
We met at Andy Harrington's Professional Speakers Academy. And I'm Mark Bryant, live in North Wales. And the last 6 years has been ridiculously transformational. In 2015, I was diagnosed with leukemia. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia is not something you'd normally find in a 36-year-old. Thrown deep into, standard care, full intensity stem cell transplant. It's probably the most toxic treatment in a short phase that cancer patients are exposed to. And the full body radiotherapy is as strong as those that were in Chernobyl were exposed to. So, and then I had my brother's stem cells. And then 6 months later, I had a relapse. And it was at that point, it was considered terminal with 6 months to live. And I told them not to tell me the revised prognosis. I just focused on getting well. And that's the only thing I had in my mind. And yeah, here I am 6 years later, and I just completed a half Ironman 2 weeks ago.
Wow, I'm literally, while you're saying that there, I can feel the hair standing up on my arms. How do you deal with that? When somebody says to you that you've got 6 months to live, what is that like?
When I had the relapse, I said, don't tell me the revised prognosis, because when I got into when I first started the journey, I was hesitant to ever ask a prognosis because I just had one outcome, which was to get well.
Yeah.
But I asked the radiologist, I asked him what my prognosis was right at the beginning. And it was because I'd heard a story at a Tony Robbins event of somebody, Joseph McClendon, one of Tony's trainers, who'd said, who was telling his story about his mother who had cancer. And it was that story that sort of helped me with the thinking and the mindset to navigate a challenging health issue, because his mum was diagnosed with a cancer as well. And it was his decision to try and make sure that the medical experts didn't tell her the prognosis. So I was really hesitant to ask the question in the first place, but I did. And he said it was 50-50. So when I had the relapse, I thought, well, the odds are stacked against me here. I said it was 50-50 on the way in. It's just got worse. So I don't want to know where I'm at that point. And after I had the relapse, a few days later, I saw a naturopath. And I'd done loads of research to try and find mainly alternative. I didn't want to have the stem cell transplant originally, but it was just, the pressure was too intense, and I didn't find enough information out there to give me the confidence to do an alternative strategy, a more natural, holistic strategy. And so I went ahead with the stem cell transplant. And then, despite having a live blood analysis come and live with me for a few days, who was really about raw foods, this was in the chemo phase before I had the stem cell transplant. I had another guy who was a bit more keto focused, and he did live bloods on me as well. I had a macrobiotic practitioner work alongside me, and I had a chef come and live with me for a week to see if a macrobiotic strategy could work, but nothing really gave me the confidence to say I'm not going to have the stem cell transplant. So I went ahead with it, and I kind of just got back into life after I came out the other side of that back in October 16, had the 15. Then I had the relapse in April 16. And I saw this naturopath a few days later, and he helped me get the thinking right, because he did bioresonance scan. He got a load of scientific documentation and paperwork to suggest that there were things in my life that had helped create the cancer in the first place. And so he then gave me a strategy to follow. And because, the odds were stacked against me, I was all in. I fully believed in my capacity to rebuild my own immune system. And it was at that point, that was a massive trigger point in my thinking. And I know you're massive on thinking, and it was almost like that was a new source of energy, a new source of fuel to push me in the right direction. Yeah. Because I think that if other people are in a challenging situation and you haven't quite got the belief, like once you've got the belief that there's a hell amount of energy and fuel to help you navigate in the direction that you want to go in. And it was that was a huge trigger point, spiritual, emotional, and psychological trigger point for me, looking back now, that helped set the sails on my healing journey. And I didn't find out I was considered terminal because there was a few things going on. Like you said, did you just do alternative? No, I didn't. I did both because I had a second line chemotherapy, switched to raw vegan, doing daily coffee enemas, like really cleansing my system out. I had some more of my brother's cells a few weeks later. And those cells gave me graft versus host. And I was, whilst inspired with this new lifestyle and the belief I could make a difference, I had one intention, which was to go to a health institute in America I'd heard about quite a few times to this point. And I got graft versus host, which is a side effect of having someone else's body parts in you, which was my brother's cells. And it was in the August that year that I was really low on energy. I couldn't eat anything. I was lying on my sofa going, I don't have any cash, savings has run out. I had the valuer come and value our property. We had a few small rental properties, and I was just like, what the fuck am I going to do? And I just felt completely deflated. And I thought, hang on a sec, maybe my life insurance covers me for something other than death. And it was at that point, I legged it into my office, looking through all the terms and conditions. It was like, if you're considered terminal, then you can claim your life insurance. And I was like, am I considered terminal? I was like, I don't know. It took a whole week for my oncologist to come back from holiday. He was in bloody Mallorca. I emailed him and he phones up. I was like, Mark, he said, Mark. I was like, yep. It's about the insurance. I was like, yep. You want me to write you off? Yeah, I do. And so it was at that point I thought, okay, but I still had enough energy going in the right direction. I felt slightly fraudulent phoning the insurance companies and saying, hey, look, I'm considered terminal. Didn't really think about the magnitude of what that really meant. I didn't let it sit within me. I just went through the process. It was relatively straightforward. I had 3 insurance policies, got paid out £1.5 million. And I then, managed to get to Florida on the 1st of October for the first time and went to a health institute. And that was a massive game changer for me heading over there as well. Because then I started to peel back the psychological and the emotional layers that I feel were some of the main reasons I got ill in the first place.
This is something I want to ask you, Matt. And as you know, as you've said, mindset's massive for me. I believe it's everything. And I've asked this question to a few people that I've been probably close enough and had that relationship in terms of that they were mentally strong enough for me to ask them this question, because it's pretty personal. That, do you think that you created that cancer yourself? And in all cases that I've asked the people that I felt I had the relationship to ask them, they all said that they did, and they could almost pinpoint to what they were doing or a particular stressful time. Talking to that more yourself, can you pinpoint something that particularly happened, or was it more of the way you were living your life as a whole?
I think it was, for me, more the way I was experiencing life, not necessarily living it, because people would have seen me as the guy that did exercise. I ate relatively well.
Yeah.
But there was healing trauma can be quite challenging if I didn't have a specific event. Like, I know you've talked a lot about PTSD and, you know, people living through very challenging experiences,
Yeah.
and then finding a way to piece that experience back together again, or change the meaning around it. For me, when I was in healing circles and doing lots of therapy and work, because that was the kind of that was what was available at the Health Institute. I'd hear other people's stories, and I think, why? I don't have any significant trauma. I had a relatively good upbringing. I lived in the
Yeah.
Middle East. I went to boarding school. But the more I've looked into how trauma resides, it's just stored memories. And those memories could have come from before I can even remember. But the fact is, they're there. Okay. And then that might be driving some the emotional patterns that make me not feel. I never saw myself as depressed or anxious. I never had, you know, what I saw as mental health symptoms, but some of the darkness, whether that's, you know, drinking too much, not as an alcoholic, but there'll be times when I'd drink and then go into a drug hole, and there was this, it was almost like there was a lot of shadow in me in that drove some destructive thought patterns and feelings, which resulted in a lot of guilt and shame.
Yeah.
And that, you know, the guilt and shame is the lowest frequency of emotions. And I think from that depth and that despair, where there was this hugely positive entrepreneurial managing director, but then on the other side there was this darkness that held within, that I couldn't find a way to express that in any other way than some you know things I did that I held. I'm not saying they were horrendously bad, but I held a shitload of guilt and shame.
Yeah.
And it was from that depth of despair that there was almost like this pressure cooker going off, chemistry, and it's the chemistry that created the disease. And yes, so therefore I did, you know, yeah, I played a massive part in that, in the creation of the cancer. Yes.
Yeah, and it's what I love though about I mean, this for me, it's very obvious for me to see, and this is why I'm so passionate about this work, because I want people to understand what I've learned. And there's a lot of things I struggle at in life, but there's some things I've learned, and for me, they're the most powerful things around belief. And when you said that you were obviously diagnosed, you were instantly looking for solutions. And that within itself creates a different chemistry. So I explain to people that if you think about it, if you ask somebody a question, or they get a memory around somebody's death or somebody like that, it might be a close family member, and some of that makes us feel sad. Or we get a memory of maybe the first our firstborn child, or a marriage, or a particular birthday, some event that we've had, and that obviously triggers that really positive emotion. So it demonstrates that by whatever we're thinking is triggering a certain emotion, and that emotion is a different chemistry within our bodies. It has to release a different chemistry. So the very fact that you didn't take this kind of victim mentality of why me, I've only got this long, or blaming, or maybe he's taking it out on other people, you went into a solution-based mindset, and you might not have had the answers, but you were looking for them.
Absolutely. I remember I'd driven to Yorkshire, to Barnsley, I think it was, to deliver some training. And my back had been getting progressively worse over a few days. And to the point where I got to the hotel, parked up, and I was looking for an emergency chiropractor. And I was taking some Nurofen painkillers. I got a small shot of whiskey. I never drink whiskey, but I thought that might take the edge of the pain off, to the point where I just like, I need to phone an ambulance. So I asked the guys behind the desk to phone them. And I sat there for 20 minutes. I was like, have you phoned the ambulance? And they're like, oh no, we phoned the NHS emergency helpline. They're going to phone you in a minute. I was like, mate. So I phoned them myself, and literally within a few minutes they came. And it was the next morning. I'd gone up in painkillers because I was still determined to deliver the training the next day. I thought, I've done all-nighters before. I can deliver the training. And that was my mindset. And so I asked the nurse, like, what's the stage of painkillers? You know, level 1, level 2, level 3, all the way up to morphine. And I went right through the levels. And then I then decided about 4 a.m, when they told me I had to stay in, that because my bloods weren't right. They took my bloods. I was like, I've got back pain. I don't need my bloods taken.
Yeah.
And then I decided at 5 a.m, give us the morphine. I text my manager and said, look, don't turn up. Tell all the guys from North Wales not to come. I'll update everybody. I didn't tell anybody else where I was, apart from one of my best mates that worked for me. And I said, get your ass over to Barnsley, and I need you to be here with me. And there was just the two of us. I was in a morphine haze, and the doctor comes in about 10 o'clock and says, you got acute lymphoblastic, you got leukemia. And it was almost like this hamster wheel I'd created.
Yeah.
Gold plated. Just the bearings, it just fell off. And I just went, I said, like, how do we solve the problem? There was no resentment, remorse. There was guilt. Like when my dad came in to the hospital, I said, I'm sorry. That was the first thing I said. And when you look back at some of the emotions I held and experienced, this just pieces the jigsaw together for a lot of the work that I've done, trying to release some of the memories that I've stored as emotions. And still continue to do deep work in trying to all the work I've done is about learning how to feel fully, because that says something about me in that moment when I got told I got cancer. Why didn't grief and sadness come up? It never came up. I hold that shit down, and that's part of the problem. And so, we get given, it's like an instrument, isn't it? You've got sadness, guilt, shame, happiness, joy. And fair enough, they've got different frequencies, but they're all useful emotions. Okay. And so what I'm working on now is really trying to access some of, releasing some of the guard I've got around my emotional capacity to then develop the ability to feel more fully.
No, I love that. And I want to touch on something there, which you mentioned about frequencies, because again, I get a lot of criticism for this, but I also get a lot of praise for it as well. So I've got a little machine. I forgot what it's called now. Is it a Candali machine? I've gone and forgot its name. It's basically where you you can turn different frequencies, and you pour the salt on, and it does the different shapes. Excuse me. And my fascination around energy, and the fact that we know everything's energy vibrating at a different rate. Water boils at 100 degrees. It doesn't boil when it's sat at room temperature. It's all different frequencies. So I made a statement which it empowered a lot of people, but it also annoyed a lot of people as well. And that was at the start of COVID. I said that I would not catch COVID because I'm not in that lower end of frequency. Now, I'm not disputing that I might have had it, that if someone was to test me, I may have had it. I'm not disputing that. But I've not shown any symptoms. And I knew that I wouldn't, because I just don't get ill because I'm in a certain vibration. What's your takes on that, from what you've been through, and talking about frequency?
I love your ability to maintain that level of energy. Does that make sense? And energy is frequency, is emotion. There's a lot of Joe Dispenza. I've never been to Joe's work, but that's a lot of what he talks into. And there's nothing, what I found, like depression, anxiety, they are natural natural human experiences, which society's tended to not demonize, but look at, if somebody says, oh, I'm depressed, oh, you're ill then, but it's no, I'm just not feeling it today. It's just like, I have a depressed feeling about myself.
Yeah.
I'm sad. I've got low energy. I can't be asked, to be honest,
Yeah.
and, that can come from an accumulation of not getting enough rest. And it's likewise with anxiety. I've got, leukemia results coming through in 2 weeks' time. There's a level of anxiousness that I'm feeling right now. And so I do completely agree that energy is everything, and emotion is directly attributed to the energy that we feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that absolutely has a huge impact on our immune system, and there's a change. It's almost like that might be your current experience now, but I think there's a spiritual aspect to it as well. Like you referred to it in one of your videos the other day, consciousness, like, what is it? How do I touch it? Is it my intuition? And where am I going with this? So there's a really good book called Dying to Be Me by Anita Moranjani. And she, it was a really inspirational book on my healing journey, because she had tried lots of different cancer recovery strategies, yoga, lots of different things, and healing retreats, nutritional stuff, and it didn't work. So 4 years later, she was in intensive care and just about to transition to the next life, whatever that may be. And she had a choice to come back to her body. And in a flick of a switch, her immune system, despite being pumped full of chemotherapy, life-saving drugs, went from illness to wellness just in a flick of a switch. And her big message in that book is to live fearlessly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, absolutely. I think that we can modulate our immune systems with how we feel. Definitely.
Yeah. And again, you've just mentioned Dr. Joe Dispenza. Somebody who I've studied, and also Dr. Bruce Lipton. They made a film, didn't they, recently? Heal. Did you see that? The documentary that they made, and also Deepak Chopra.
Yes. Yeah,
you've seen that,
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very powerful. And again, that's around beliefs, isn't it? And what they basically say is that we can impact our own DNA. We can affect our own DNA by what we're actually thinking, which I know Bruce Lipton, he talks into releasing cortisol. So stress, anxiety, that we're releasing cortisol into our body, and that cortisol shuts down our immune system. And as Bruce Lipton says, it's that powerful that we use cortisol when giving people heart transplants, kidney, liver transplants, and things like that, because we don't want their natural immune system to attack the foreign object. We want to shut down their immune system. So this is how powerful cortisol is, that we physically use it to our advantage to shut down the immune system. And people are releasing that into the body constantly all day by being in a state of stress. And another thing which he talks about is the placebo effect, which where a pill, it's proven, you take the sugar pill and that has an impact of as if you've took certain medication, and people get better from it. And like he says, it's not actually the sugar pill that made you better, it's the belief that this thing that I've taken is making me better. So again, a shift in our thought, our focus, is creating a different chemistry within the body. For me, it's just, I just don't understand, like, why is this not being taught at schools? Why is this not being taught to children? Why is this not made more readily available to people? Because there was a doctor I spoke to earlier on this year, and he specializes in, he's on a cancer ward, he's a cancer specialist. I've forgot what the terminology is, but that's what he's done for the last 20 years. And I said to him, can I ask you a couple of personal questions? I'm fine with it if you don't want to answer them. I get it. You might be in a bit of a position where you can't answer them. I said, but do you believe that you speed up the dying process by telling people that they've got 3, 6, 12 months to live? And he said, yeah, absolutely. We know that in a lot of cases, we give someone a diagnosis of 6 months and they will shut down. They'll just release that much fear, cortisol into the body, that they will die around that sort of time frame.
Mm.
So my question was, well, why would you do that? If you know that that's going to kill somebody, why would you do that? And his answer was, which kind of opened my eyes a bit, was we have to make an assessment of the patient. And some patients actually want to know that they've got a certain period of time because it allows them to go sort family matters out and sort the bank cards out and the car insurance and all of these things and kind of gives them closure. And then he said, we've got some people who they're not mentally stable enough to accept that, or family members don't want them to know. So we'll just say that, look, it's a 50-50 sort of chance. We're not sure how long you could live for, because they know that that'll have a more detrimental effect. But I think the biggest thing what I took from that again was, here's a guy who's specialized in this for 20 odd years, and he's openly admitting that whatever somebody believes is going to have a big impact on the outcome. And he also said that we can tell some people that you're going to die within 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is, and they refuse to believe that. They're just like yourself, like, no, you might be telling me that, but I'm categorically, that is not going to happen to me. And he said, and when you get that kind of person, that again releases a different chemistry. They've got a completely different mindset. Now, he said, I'm not saying that works every time, because there might be balancing a bit of fear and a bit of trying to hold on that determination to fight it. But he said in a lot of cases, when someone has that really stubborn Lance Armstrong type mentality, they go on to be cured. I mean, I think, didn't Lance Armstrong have it in most parts of his body or something like that? I don't know if you're aware of that.
I mean, I know he's had cancer. I don't know to what extent. I don't know his specific journey. I should read his book really. But I just know that he went on to recover from something that was ridiculously challenging. What you were saying there is that, on one side of life we've got science and data, and then on the other side of life we've got sort of more natural, spiritual, emotional,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of evidence and science and data and research around the medical aspect of certain cancers, certain medications, certain research studies that have been done to look at. So in order for the medical director to sign me off, I had to be classed as one in, whatever this particular study that my oncologist sent, to say that the life expectancy of somebody that has had a stem cell transplant and then has a relapse is, medium survival of, less than 2%. I never looked at that data because that wasn't the important information for me at the time.
Yeah.
That was just a part of the transaction that had to be done. It's only about 2 years later that I actually read the letter and I thought, holy shit.
Yeah.
That was close. And unfortunately, a lot of the narrative is on the negative stuff, like, and so I had to go and find the breadcrumbs that make up the piece of bread of survival. So I was like looking for anything to give me hope and possibility, and to develop the power of the placebo. And interestingly, whether I was taking chemotherapy or I was doing some crazy health strategy, it was the intention of it. So if you go to a healing retreat, it's like, what's your intention for being here today? And it's like, it's finding that GPS setting, that navigation setting through it. So I was taking chemotherapy, and I've got videos of me being injected with it and going, well, I might not be drinking Sambuca this on Friday night, but I'm taking my medicine and it's going to help me. And it was almost like I wasn't resisting it. I wasn't fighting it. And I see a lot of people that are fighting cancer, like, and it's, it's almost like I switched the other way, and it's like, what can I understand from it? What do I need to learn from it? How can I develop and grow out of this and so that creates a different energy in itself. I'm not saying, I have equally heard of somebody that was so didn't believe in any of the natural stuff, walked into Brian Clement's office, who's the guy that runs the Health Institute, and was like, this is a load of bullshit, threw the documents down. It's like, I don't believe this is going to work. I'm just going to go and do it my way. And then literally 2 years later comes back and says, look, I'm fine,
Yeah.
So it's just, it's so interesting, because what I continue to see is that there is evidence for everything that you're thinking.
Yeah.
So, and I'm in this difficult phase now because I'm not fully healed. I want to come off the second line chemotherapy tablets. I'm really well, and I have to use the science, right? Because in the last 5 years, there's this one lady called Jane McClelland who's written a book bridging sort of the scientific world and the natural world together. And there's a bit of resentment in me going, I've got to go into all of this again and fall back in love with my healing journey. And one of my easy options is to go back to America. But every time I go there, it's like 100 grand.
Yeah.
And it's just a financial decision that, so I'm in a really interesting situation now where I'm trying to decide on what the next few years looks like for me. Yeah.
Mark, I just think your whole approach to this, there's two things I really want to take away from this, because I think you can help so many people, and you do help so many people, which is one of the things I want to come on to as well. If somebody's watching this and they've been diagnosed with cancer, and obviously they might have a level of fear and that uncertainty, what would you advise them to do? What's the step? I mean, you might not have an exact step-by-step, but what somebody's listening to this now and they're going, wow, I've been drawn to this, because I believe that people will watch this video, and I believe like energy attracts like energy. And I think part of the bigger universal, the creator, God, light, energy, whatever you want to call it, that somebody will come to this video and they're needed to hear this very thing. It's going to be the thing that changes. This interview will probably save lives. I will go as far as saying that. What would you advise somebody who's listening? What's the first steps? What should they do?
The first thing I speak to when I speak into cancer patients at the minute is get Jane McClelland's book, How to Starve Cancer, because that kind of bridges the whole naturopathic, holistic, and scientific approach to cancer. And it's really interesting to see that there is a positive move in this direction. So, cancers are not just genetic. A lot of the medications that are in mainstream medicine at the minute are genetically created because you can patent them. And they can be charged. And, my medication costs 25 grand a year, but I can't go and do potentially life-saving treatment in America. My insurance won't pay for that. And it's so frustrating when I could get 25 grand's worth of medication for the next 20 years. I'm like, I don't want to take it for 20 years, but cancers are just like normal cells in the body. They're metabolic. And, you hear a lot of cancer patients that say, oh, well, I've just got to cut out sugar and I'll get well. But in reality, cancer cells have the pathways of fats, proteins, and carbs or sugars. And so she's been able to develop a very specific strategy for different cancers, because they all fuel differently. And so there's like different pathways on each of the fats, carbs, and proteins. So what you use is off-label drugs to block the pathways. So things like statins for the fats, diabetic drugs, diabetes drugs for the sugars. And so she's got a little cocktail of drugs. And there's Care Oncology in London that also are creating a study that they've got centers around the world now that are offering a lot of labeled drugs, which are super cheap, 70 quid a quarter or something. But it's not part of mainstream medicine at the moment because the research is relatively new. So that's what I would say to cancer patients is go get her book, read it. It probably won't make sense to initially read it a second time and do her online course, because I think, you know, that this she's working on the new science that, you know, ultimately there needs to be personalized medicine. Because whilst the people in the system are great, my oncologist knows what he knows, but he's not a functional medicine practitioner. The system does not have functional medicine practitioners operating within it. So our whole immune system is not just, you know, the current medicine just focuses on the symptoms, like what's the problem? Let's try and fix the problem, but not the root cause. And so, you know, we've got physical well-being, which is all to do with guts, micronutrients. Are we getting the right nutrition, you know, exercise, moving the lymphatic system? There's all that kind of stuff. And where was I going with this? The question was
steps. The steps of what someone would do if they were watching.
So that's what I would say is read How to Starve Cancer, and I'll send you the link to the book. And you know, her books, she's got a cancer support group of like 42,000 people. So if you search for your specific cancer type in that support group, there are lots of people doing really lots of positive things within it. And the other part of it is the psychosomatics part of it, is knowing that there are people out there like me, like Anita Moranjani, that have overcome stage 4 and terminal illnesses. All right. I've just seen a little video of a 91-year-old that's done the same thing. Amazing stories out there, and it is possible. You know, and that's my thing with the Terminal to Triathlon, is that anything is possible. And you can do it. You just got to silence the noise and build your own story. Okay. Because a lot of the noise will knock you off your path. And I think my entrepreneurial endeavors is like, you are going to be one of the 1 or 2% of people that are doing what you're doing, not the other 90%. Like, we've got to be those that are walking the path, as opposed to the 98% that are still not misguided. I don't want to say misguided, but confused by the noise that culturally society has been created. So I hope that helps.
No, absolutely. And I just think it's that whole thing, isn't it, about putting yourself around positive people, positive environments, looking for a solution. And some what I noticed you said was actually not fighting it, because I've heard Dr. Deepak Chopra say that he teaches people that don't see the cancer as something separate to you that you're having a fight with. See that it's a part of your body, because you can now control it with the power of your mind and the chemistry to visualize and actually heal a part of your body, which again, as there's lots of study and proof that people have done this. So thanks for that, Mark. I want to shift now, because as you've said, this is a lot around the mindset. This is a lot around that solution-based, thinking of solutions rather than the problems, and putting yourself in a certain type of energy, which you've talked about. So tell me, how have you gone from this guy that was told that he had so long to live to now doing what you're doing? And within that question, so it's kind of a two questions in a one. How does somebody like high performance athletes use this same attitude? Because that's what you're using. So how does somebody improve their results in an area of their life?
I think healthy high performance is for everybody. You know, it's not reserved for the elite. And the great thing is that there are people like you that, you know, the amount that you give in terms of content, it's it's changing your beliefs around that. Like I put on here, those people that might discredit what you say or what I say is because they are in fight or flight.
Yeah.
And, and I have compassion for those people. And unless they open up to possibility, they will be stuck in that vortex, that vacuum that has been created for them. And, when you see someone transform
Yeah.
like that, it's, it's amazing, but you've got to open yourself up to new ideas, to new beliefs, and not be so rigid around what we've learned or what we've been taught or what we've believed. It's like, just open yourself up to it, and step into change.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us what you're doing. For people who don't know, you've mentioned an Ironman. Tell us exactly what is it and what have you been up to?
When I was in hospital, I drew a mind map as to what my life would look like after cancer, and on there was was an Ironman. I won when I was a young kid the school triathlon, which was nowhere near an Ironman distance. But I was only 14, and the sixth formers were in it as well, and I got crowned the Ironman of Ellesmere, and it was a really proud moment. But
Yeah.
it's always kind of sat with me, going, well, I'm not really an Ironman until I do one, and so that has really helped me, because one thing that has come through the work that you do is discipline. And I always shied away from, I'm going to go and join the Marines, but I never did. I'm going to go and get a job as a management consultant, but I never did. I got all the application forms, but I never did it. And so
Yeah.
there was this lack of self-belief, which I'll just do it my own way, and whilst that part of me is great,
Yeah.
there's this other part of me. So the triathlon training is really helping me put structure into my life that I've never had before.
I can imagine. Yeah.
That's really good. And so I've entered the full Ironman on the 14th of August 2022. And so Terminal Triathlon is a movement that I'm creating to help inspire and educate and empower cancer patients. So there's a podcast as part of the program. And ultimately, any money that I raise through Terminal to Triathlon, 60% of it is going to projects and charities and specific people that are looking for financial support through their cancer healing journey.
It's amazing.
So that's what I'm doing. And the other 40% will help develop Terminal to Triathlon. And ultimately, if I hit my income target, give me the finance to head back to America for at least one more round of treatment with my oncologist over there.
I would like to think of myself as a guy that doesn't suffer from limiting beliefs, but we all do. I don't care who you are, you absolutely do.
Oh, yeah.
And it's usually the ones you're blindsided by. So for me, it's like, in my head, I believe I can do anything. So it's physically, if it's a business, whatever it is, if I decide it's happening, it's happening. And you've probably seen the post that I've put out within our Speakers Academy group, because I remember having a one-to-one with Andy, and he was kind of like, right, show me your business. What's the model? I laid it all out, and he was like, what's this thing here? Why are you teaching 13 people? And I said, oh, that's like the perfect number for my business. And he was like, why? And I said, oh, that's how many the room holds. And he was like, and it sounds crazy now. And I'm a guy that has achieved a lot of things, especially in physical things, being an Army PTI, passing para course and things like that. And he went, so wait there, you're basing your entire business around a room in a hotel. And when he said it, I kind of went, yeah, but it's not just that. And this is the thing, isn't it? We want to hold on to them beliefs. I said, I know what you're saying, but the 13 works really well because they're able to open up to me. It's quite emotional. I get the best out of them. And he said back to me, how does Tony Robbins put 10,000 people in a room and the entire room cries? And that's when I kind of sat back and thought, yeah, fair point. And he went, Stephen, you've got a limiting belief. Get rid of this crap, change that room and go and serve people. People want to work with you, and you're being selfish right now by limiting the amount of people that can work with you. And I never seen it that way. And I remember getting a bigger room and putting 30 people in. And I can honestly say the event was actually better. And I've just done that particular event a couple of weeks ago with 50 summit people in the room. And it was probably the best one that I've done. And it was completely, I look at it now and I know I can laugh, but the point I'm making is we can't see these limiting beliefs most of the time. And it takes somebody on the outside to help you see that.
Absolutely. We're going through the similar thing. I part own a fitness business, and we've just doing some training with Matt Elwell. You leave those in. Yeah. So, but it's more about changing the team's mindset around the way we've always done things around here. Well, no, we can't do that. Like, so I'm hopefully, we've done 2 sessions now. We've got a 3-day coming up next week. So it'll be interesting to see what the team come up with out the back of that. It'll be good.
Yeah, it's just so much, isn't it, on beliefs. Mark, I want to wrap up with a couple of things because I don't want to take up any more of your time. This has been really valuable. What is your vision now? Where are you going? Where's the future? What do you want?
When you said just before, like when I put my mind to something, I get it done. And you've got a very direct, and once it's in the plan, it's getting done. And I have, I'm still in this transition phase where there's not, other than getting well, like that is absolutely crystal clear. How that comes about, I'm not quite sure. Like, so yeah, that's the fitness business is I'm in, but I'm not all in. It's not like we're gonna have 20 sites over the next, it's like, I'm not. We've got some holiday let business because I created that because I thought it would be a good thing for Fiona.
Yeah.
And she loves the hospitality side. So I've got that on my plate, and I've got to get well, and I've got the kids and the dogs. So at the minute, other than getting well and, seeing myself having my own immune system harvested. So my oncologist, he does stem cell harvesting. So, so and I know that if I get to that point, then we've rebuilt my immune system to a point that if I get ill in 10 years' time, I can call my young army back to solve the problem, as opposed to having someone else's cells. So that's my big vision is to find a way to facilitate that to happen, which, it's almost like saying I want to go and stay in a, it's a really costly vision, because I know it's going to cost, $250,000 to £500,000 to do that, because it's not one round of treatment, know. So that's what's in my thinking, because some might think he's off the wall. He's amazing, and I fully believe in him and I trust him. And so scientifically, that's what I want to do. And then all the other spiritual and psychological and emotional stuff can come through that. And so I've just spent the last 3 months really looking at what else I could do. But that's what I really want to do is that's in my vision.
And is that's helping other people to along that
absolutely
journey?
I think he practices personal oncology. He's personalized medicine, and that's, I'd love to think I could do it without him, but I know that I could fully do it with him, because he's the only one that measures immune system function that I've come across in the world. Every time I try and say I don't want to go there, I don't need to go there, like Jane McClellan the other day when I interviewed her, she was like, oh, it's amazing, seeing the future science report that's been produced on you is amazing, that treatment's amazing. I'm like, you weren't meant to say that. You just say, do this instead. Like,
No, I get that completely.
I need to come and join your property academy, and then I can produce some significant income from my assets.
But that's the thing, isn't it? It's like me as a coach and a mentor, my belief in my capabilities to help others is second to none. Like,
Yeah.
I know if someone works with me, I'm going to squeeze every single bit of performance out of them, and I'm exceptional at doing that, and I'll openly say that.
Mm.
But that doesn't get away from the fact that even though I've got all of that skill set and ability, I still need a coach as well. And because you're blindsided to them other things. And I just love your entire approach to that, of you're helping other people, but you recognize as well that you need people as part of your power team in order to help
I do
you perform at the highest level.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So no, Steve, thank you so much for this. And I will troops across the countryside and come and see you, because I really mean it, that, I think having getting a mentor, I don't have one at the minute other than the full team of freaking medical people that I speak to all the time. It's just to pull my head out the clouds a little bit. And so it'll be good if we could arrange that, or you let me know when your next mastermind is. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Mark, I want to finish with one last question, which I finish with all the time on my interviews.
Go on.
We're at a funeral. So we stood at a funeral, and it's actually your funeral. So we're fast forwarding now, and your close family, friends, and people that you love are there. What do you want them to say about you?
He achieved his mission, which was to be healthy at 100. I've got my grandkids there. I've got my 2 daughters. Amber would probably sing a song. Like, she's just released her first song called Forgotten. She's amazing. She's 13 now. They'd have their own tribe, whatever that looks like, family or animals. Amber says she doesn't want kids. Ella says she wants children. And yeah, and I've been part of the change that needed to happen in terms of the medical industry, showing that there is a different path. And yeah, it's not one or the other. It's a combined approach using the best of science and ancestral wisdom. And yeah, there's a lot of joy in the room. There's a lot of positivity. There's just a really good feeling that life was fucking amazing. It doesn't have to be anything different to that. Life is about feeling. I want to know that I've traveled the world. I haven't done enough travel. I lived in the Middle East quite a bit. So definitely having seen different parts of the world and spent some time there is on my roadmap, definitely. And yeah, just an amazing community of friends and family that are there to celebrate my life. And I'm some old dude that made it to 100.
Mark, I'd love that. How does somebody find you if somebody's watching this podcast and maybe they're facing a difficult time right now and they've been inspired by your approach? Because it is nothing less than inspirational how you've just the whole thing of what you've done, from your approach right from the very start. How does somebody find you if they're looking?
Head to terminaltotriathlon.com, or at my Instagram handle is where most of my content goes, which is Terminal to Triathlon. So head to the website or head to Instagram, and that's where you'll find me.
Guys, I've loved interviewing Mark on this particular interview around inspiration and mindset. For those that don't know, because Mark's mentioned a couple of times about doing an Ironman, that consists of a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile on the bike, and then running a full marathon all after one another. And from a guy who's gone from being told he only had 6 months to live to achieving a half Ironman and about to do a full Ironman, what an amazing guy, offering a lot back to the world, to the universe. And we are fortunate to have you here. The world's a better place with more Marks in it. So thanks, guys. And once again, thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Stephen.